The freezing rain poured mercilessly over the edge of the towering corporate skyscraper. Ko Xiaoming stood at the very brink of the wet ledge, his breath visible in the cold night air. His tailored business suit was completely soaked, clinging heavily to his trembling frame. In his tightly clenched fist, he held a crushed legal document proving his total financial ruin. His closest business partner, Jiang, had systematically stripped away every single asset he owned. Left with absolutely nothing but an insurmountable mountain of fraudulent debt, Xiaoming closed his eyes. With a final curse echoing in his throat, he tipped his body forward into the open air. The wind roared like a feral beast in his ears as the city streets rushed upward to meet him. Darkness instantly consumed his consciousness upon the expected impact. A sudden, agonizing gasp forced his lungs open as his eyes snapped wide in disbelief. He frantically checked his arms and torso, finding absolutely no broken bones or lethal injuries. The skyscraper he had jumped from was still there, but its windows were shattered and dark. A horrific, throat-tearing shriek echoed from the main avenue just beyond the alleyway entrance. Xiaoming scrambled backward on his hands and knees, pressing his back against a cold brick wall. Multiple blood-drenched figures emerged into view, devouring a fresh corpse on the pavement. Their skin was rotting away, and their eyes glowed with an insatiable, mindless hunger. Realizing he had survived a suicide leap only to land in a living nightmare, his heart hammered furiously. One of the creatures snapped its head in his direction, picking up his scent instantly. With a terrifying burst of speed, the infected beast charged directly into the narrow passage. Xiaoming looked around frantically for a weapon, but his hands found only slippery trash and wet cardboard. Suddenly, time completely ground to a halt as a brilliant blue light flashed before his eyes. A sleek, high-tech holographic window materialized out of thin air right in front of him. A mechanical, pitch-perfect voice echoed directly inside his mind. The system text read, "Welcome to the Apocalypse CEO Recruitment Interface." Xiaoming blinked hard, wondering if his dying brain was merely generating a wild hallucination. The system quickly displayed his core statistics, evaluating his unique background as a corporate executive. It explained that the global apocalypse was a massive, untapped market waiting to be commercialized. A sudden spark of familiarity ignited within Xiaoming's analytical business mind. The interface stated that he possessed the unique authority to hire evolutionary zombies as loyal corporate employees. All contracted entities would be bound by absolute loyalty clauses, completely incapable of treason. The word loyalty struck a deep, vengeful chord inside his chest as he thought of Jiang. If humans were inherently treacherous, then a horde of absolute unquestioning monsters would be the perfect workforce. The system prompted, "Initial sign-on bonus available, please claim your starting capital immediately." Without a single second of hesitation, Xiaoming reached out his hand and slammed his palm against the screen. A countdown timer suddenly appeared, ticking down the final seconds of the frozen time state. The suspended rain droplets instantly collapsed back to Earth as time violently resumed its course. The sprinting zombie let out a deafening roar, its razor-sharp claws merely inches away from Xiaoming's face. At that exact microsecond, a heavy crimson notification screen forced itself open between them. The text blared in bold letters, "Special SSR tier employee candidate found in immediate vicinity." Looking past the barrier, Xiaoming spotted a shadow moving with elite grace behind the charging monster. The system window offered a final option: execute immediate mandatory hiring contract. As the creature's claws began cracking through his temporary shield, Xiaoming let out a dark, ruthless laugh. The ravenous monster threw its entire weight forward, shattering the protective hardlight barrier into hundreds of glittering shards. A glowing neon holographic interface immediately materialized right before Xiaoming's eyes, freezing the impending danger in place. The corporate interface presented a glowing list of available undead candidates ready for immediate recruitment. Xiaoming's gaze locked instantly onto a top-tier candidate profile featuring a remarkably beautiful zombie girl. The profile identified her as Zhao Yu, a unique evolutionary variant possessing immense hidden combat capabilities. Without a shred of hesitation, Xiaoming slammed his index finger onto the flashing corporate recruitment button. A blinding pillar of golden light erupted violently from the concrete ground right next to him. The hyper-fast infected monster was sent flying backward through the air by the sheer concussive force of the energy surge. As the radiant light slowly dissipated, a slender, striking figure gradually stepped out from the fading glow. She possessed porcelain pale skin, long midnight black hair, and two glowing golden energy wings extending from her back. Xiao Yu immediately dropped to one knee before Xiaoming, bowing her head in absolute unwavering submission. A system notification chimed softly, confirming the successful binding of his very first full-time undead employee. From the edge of the roof, a massive chorus of guttural growls echoed as dozens more infected began climbing up the walls. Xiuming folded his arms across his chest, staring down at the approaching biological nightmare with total indifference. With a sharp flick of his wrist, he pointed directly toward the encroaching undead horde. He ordered his new employee to clear out the entire area, leaving absolutely nothing alive or functional. Instantly receiving her instructions, Zhao Yu lifted her head, her golden eyes flashing with sudden, predatory ferocity. She launched herself forward like a supersonic artillery shell, cracking the concrete floor beneath her boots. The first wave of fast zombies was completely obliterated into dark mist upon making direct contact with her. Her golden energy wings extended to their full span, slicing through infected bodies like superheated plasma blades. Xiuming watched the absolute carnage unfold, thoroughly impressed by the incredible return on his investment. 3 massive, heavily mutated infected lunged from a nearby ventilation shaft, attempting to ambush her from behind. Without even turning around, Zhao Yu effortlessly sensed their movements through the shared system network. She whipped her right arm backward, unleashing a concentrated crescent wave of pure golden energy. The energy blade cleaved the 3 giant mutants perfectly in half, exploding them into harmless pixelated dust. Xiuming brought up her floating stat sheet to analyze the specific experience points she was rapidly accumulating. With every single infected creature she slaughtered, Zhao Yu's raw attributes and combat power spiked noticeably higher. A wounded zombie crawled frantically away from her, but she stepped down heavily on its head without mercy. Within a matter of minutes, the entire rooftop fell completely silent, save for the sound of falling rain. Xiao Yu walked back over to her master, her golden wings retracting gracefully into her pale shoulder blades. Xiuming reached out and gently tapped a new upgrade prompt, hovering directly over her head. A refreshing surge of dark evolutionary energy washed over her body, unlocking her advanced skill tree pathways. Her profile updated instantly, revealing a newly unlocked specialized skill called Abyssal Domain. Xiuming realized that with this corporate system, he could easily turn the entire global apocalypse into his own profitable venture. Suddenly, a loud, metallic crash echoed from the dark stairwell door leading up to the roof. The heavy iron door was violently ripped off its hinges, thrown across the roof by an immense brute force. Out from the pitch-black stairwell stepped a mutated zombie chieftain, 3 times larger than any monster they had faced. The massive beast let out an earth-shattering roar that vibrated through the structure and shattered nearby windows. Behind the giant chieftain, thousands of glowing red eyes materialized in the shadows of the lower building levels. A critical system warning flashed violently across Xiuming's vision in bright, alarming crimson letters. The system indicated that this massive horde was merely the vanguard of a much larger, coordinated hunting pack. Xiao Yu instantly stepped out in front of Xiuming, her body tensing up as she prepared for a brutal battle. Xiuming slowly adjusted his tie, his eyes narrowing into a cold, predatory gaze as he stared at the massive beast. He realized this was the perfect opportunity to test the true limits of his newly acquired corporate authority. With a calm, low voice, he authorized Zhao Yu to deploy her newly unlocked Abyssal Domain capability. Xiao Yu slammed both of her pale hands onto the wet concrete floor, triggering a massive dark expansion. A wave of absolute pitch-black darkness erupted from her position, rapidly swallowing the entire rooftop space. The massive zombie chieftain suddenly froze, its immense body heavily suppressed by the weight of the new domain. As the absolute darkness reached its peak, a strange, distorted system notification suddenly pinged with an unknown error code. From the very depths of the dark domain, an entirely separate, immensely sinister voice echoed directly inside Xiuming's mind. The unsettling voice reverberated deeply within the confines of Xiuming's mind, sending a sudden chill straight down his spine. He quickly narrowed his eyes and scanned the perimeter, searching for the hidden source of the psychic intrusion. Beside him, Zhao Yu remained perfectly motionless, her golden eyes tracking his every micro-movement with absolute loyalty. The system screen suddenly flashed open in front of him, dissipating the mental pressure with its bright blue glow. A new notification text rapidly generated across the screen, indicating that a group of hostile survivors had entered the local grid. Xiuming let out a cold laugh, recognizing that human nature would never change even at the absolute end of the world. Heavy footsteps suddenly crunched against the wet gravel just around the corner of the abandoned warehouse. 3 armed scavengers emerged from the shadows, their weapons raised and their faces twisted with malicious intent. The leader of the group demanded that Xiuming hand over all his supplies and the girl standing behind him. Xiuming simply stood his ground, casually sliding his hands into his pant pockets without a single trace of fear. With a silent mental command, he ordered Zhao Yu to eliminate the immediate threat to the company. Xiao Yu instantly vanished from her spot, leaving behind a sharp crack of displaced air and a burst of golden light. The lead scavenger blinked in utter disbelief as his flashlight beam suddenly passed through empty air. Before he could even pull the trigger, Zhao Yu appeared directly in front of him, her sharp claws gleaming dangerously. With a single swift slash, she shattered the weapon and sent the leader flying heavily into a brick wall. The remaining 2 scavengers screamed in terror, completely unnerved by her supernatural speed and strength. Xiuming watched the chaotic scene unfold, mentally calculating the combat efficiency of his prime employee. The system interface displayed real-time stat changes, showing Zhao Yu's energy output stabilizing at optimal parameters. Xiao Yu whirled around on her heel, her piercing gaze locking onto the next target with predatory hunger. She lunged forward once more, effortlessly disarming the second scavenger with a precise kick to the chest. The last surviving scavenger turned around completely, attempting to sprint back into the safety of the dark ruins. From the shadows behind him, a grotesque mutated evolutionary zombie suddenly dropped down from the ceiling. The running man screeched to a halt as the horrific creature snapped its jaws open in anticipation. Xiuming immediately recognized this new threat as an elite-tier infected, far superior to the common horde. He decided that this powerful specimen would make an excellent second addition to his growing corporate roster. He instructed Zhao Yu to subdue the mutated creature without destroying its vital neural network. Xiao Yu rocketed forward, her golden energy wings slicing through the night air like deadly blades. The mutated zombie roared loudly, swinging its massive, elongated arm heavily toward her head. With flawless grace, Xiao Yu ducked beneath the heavy swing, her hair brushing against the creature's claw. She delivered a precise, energy-infused palm strike directly to the center of the monster's chest cavity. The massive evolutionary zombie crashed hard onto its back, its movements temporarily paralyzed by the shockwave. Xiuming walked over slowly, his dress shoes tapping rhythmically against the wet pavement as he approached the fallen beast. He extended his right hand forward, activating the system's specialized corporate binding contract protocol. A bright purple energy beam shot down from the digital seal, completely enveloping the mutated zombie's head. Within seconds, the creature's frantic struggles ceased entirely, its aggressive demeanor turning completely docile. The system screen congratulated him on successfully hiring a level 2 Vanguard zombie for his personal army. Xiuming smiled deeply, realizing that with this method, his potential growth in this apocalyptic wasteland was truly infinite. He turned his attention back to the horizon, where the distant silhouettes of massive skyscrapers stood against the dark sky. Sudden heavy vibrations began to shake the very foundations of the highway beneath his feet. A massive, shadowy colossus with glowing crimson eyes slowly rose from the deep ruins of the adjacent sector, locking its gaze directly onto Xiuming. A massive, shadowy colossus with glowing crimson eyes slowly rose from the deep ruins of the adjacent sector, locking its gaze directly onto Xiuming. Xiuming did not flinch as the ground trembled beneath the weight of the titanic monstrosity. With a simple wave of his hand, he commanded Zhao Yu to intercept the emerging giant. Xiao Yu launched herself through the air like a streak of pure golden light. Her blade sliced through the colossus with absolute precision, shattering its core into a million glittering fragments. Applauding from the shadows of a nearby warehouse, a familiar voice echoed across the desolate battlefield. It was Zhang, the treacherous business partner who had previously pushed Xiuming off the skyscraper. Zhang sneered at his former friend, boasting about his newly acquired mercenary force and stolen corporate assets. Dozens of heavily armed survivors emerged from the shadows behind Zhang, aiming their weapons directly at Xiuming. Xiuming let out a cold laugh, finding it hilarious that his old enemy still thought human weapons mattered in this new world. A system notification flashed across his vision, presenting a prompt to unlock the ultimate corporate ability. He selected the option to synchronize his consciousness with his top-tier zombie employee. Golden energy tendrils erupted from Zhao Yu, spiraling across the wet pavement towards Xiuming. The energy wrapped tightly around Xiuming, lifting him into the air as their power levels fused completely. Massive, glowing golden energy wings burst from Xiuming's back, shattering the windows of adjacent buildings from the shockwave. Zhang's smug expression instantly vanished, replaced by sheer terror as he stumbled backward. The mercenaries panicked and opened fire, unleashing a hail of bullets toward the hovering figure. Every single bullet stopped instantly in midair, caught by an invisible telekinetic barrier generated by the Union mode. Xiuming clenched his fist, causing the suspended ammunition to burst into fine metallic dust. Realizing their weapons were useless, the mercenaries turned around and began running for their lives. Xiuming merely gestured forward, commanding his vast zombie horde waiting in the surrounding alleyways to strike. Thousands of evolutionary zombies swarmed from the darkness, instantly cutting off every escape route. The mercenaries were systematically disarmed and subdued, brought to their knees by the overwhelming undead army. Zhang fell backward onto the cold concrete, pleading for mercy from the man he had once betrayed. Xiuming slowly descended from the sky, his glowing wings folding neatly behind his back. He stood over Zhang, reminding him of the exact words spoken right before he was pushed from the rooftop. "You told me that in business, the weak are meant to be liquidated by the strong," Xiuming whispered coldly. Zhang offered to give back all the stolen wealth and properties if Xiuming spared his life. Xiuming gestured to the ruined world around them, pointing out that human money was completely worthless now. "In this new era, the only true currency is absolute power and absolute obedience," he declared. With a flick of his wrist, he ordered Zhao Yu to execute the final judgment on the traitor. A single, blinding flash of energy cut through the darkness, ending Zhang's life and resolving the ultimate betrayal. A final system notification chimed, confirming the elimination of the primary target and rewarding massive corporate experience points. The system interface officially leveled up his status to Apocalypse CEO, granting unlimited control over all global infected. The Union mode dissolved gently, leaving Xiaoming and Zhao Yu standing side by side as masters of the new world. The remaining mercenaries swore absolute allegiance to Xiaoming's corporate hierarchy, completely integrated into his labor force. Xiaoming looked out over the sprawling ruins, knowing that the old world of corruption and betrayal was permanently dead. From the ashes of his former life, an unstoppable global empire had been successfully constructed. He had transitioned from a betrayed victim into the ultimate commander of the undead, holding the future of humanity in his palm. With his loyal zombie army at his side, the Apocalypse CEO smiled sinisterly, ready to rule over his new corporate world forever.